Well, good afternoon, Northern Michigan, and we're going to take a look at our first ever winter climate summary regarding the remarkable cold winter of 2013-2014, which, meteorologically speaking, actually ended last night. Taking a look at some of our winter weather highlights. Persistent cold through the whole winter season, December right on through February, with temperature departures running several degrees below normal. This resulted in one of the coldest winter seasons in northern Michigan recorded weather history. Both precipitation and snowfall was dominated by lake processes during the winter season, as the persistent cold resulted in a rather farther south displaced storm track. And as a result of the cold weather, the Great Lakes experienced near record-setting ice cover, with as much as 88% of the Great Lakes at one time covered by ice during the month of February. Once again, the reason for the record-setting cold was a rather persistent upper-level pattern across the northern hemisphere. You can see here on the panel on the right, persistent west coast ridging building all the way up into and beyond Alaska, with downstream troughing across the Great Lakes region. This set up what is called cross-polar flow, which brought frequent bouts of Arctic air south through the Great Lakes region. Now, breaks in this pattern were relatively brief, only lasting a few days, and rather infrequent during the winter season. And you can see that here on the monthly or the winter temperature departure for the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region. Colors in the light blue and perhaps a little bit darker blue shade indicates readings of 10 to 12 degrees below normal across the western and northwestern Great Lakes. For northern lower Michigan, temperatures average between 6 and 8 degrees below normal. Once again, this did result in one of the coldest winters in recorded history. For spots like Gaylord, this was the all-time coldest winter, but their records only go back to 1951. Some of our more long-standing sites like Alpena and Houghton Lake reported their second coldest winter on record, and this winter closely resembled the winters of 1993 and 1994 and the historically cold winter of 1976-1977. Because of that persistent cold, you can see a map here on the left of the, or satellite imagery of the left on the Great Lakes ice cover. You can see Lake Superior almost completely ice covered. This is a mid-February picture. Look at northern Lake Michigan, Beaver Island, down the Leelanau Peninsula, points north and east. That is completely solid ice cover with more floating ice back further to the west and along the Lake Michigan shoreline of both Wisconsin, Illinois, and southern lower Michigan. At this time, Lake Huron was about 100% ice cover with just some open areas along the shore. And what you don't see here is Lake Erie, that was at the time 100% ice covered. Now, as a result of all this ice cover, there was less temperature modification than we normally see during the later parts of winter. And this resulted in conditions much more familiar to those in Wisconsin and Minnesota, with less temperature modification. In addition, after a very busy start to the lake effect snow season, this increasing ice cover limited both aerial coverage and intensity of lake effect snow showers, particularly by the end of January and on into February. As far as precipitation is concerned, the main storm track, as mentioned, was off to the south. You can see a little bit heavier, and this is departure from normal in terms of percent, a little bit heavier precipitation across the northern Ohio Valley and southern Great Lakes region, and much of this area is experiencing one of their all-time snowiest winters on record. A rather vigorous late February storm that moved well to our west brought very heavy precipitation up across parts of northwest Wisconsin and the Arrowhead of Minnesota, and that's the reason you see well above normal precipitation up in that area. Once again, our area was more dominated by lake effect processes early on in the season, and as a result, more of the heavier precipitation and snowfall was confined to the more traditional lake effect snow belts of both eastern upper and northwest lower Michigan. Well, that concludes the winter 2013-2014 climate briefing. Thanks again for listening. There will be another climate summary at the end of the spring season.